Lo, you already know what time it is. Time to get this show on the road. Let's go.
Say less. I'm on my way.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another great edition of The Hit, Season 3, Episode 2. You all know who we are, but if you don't, this is your first time here watching. I am Logan Graffia. He is Kevin Rons. And this is, again, The Hit. We're going to get right into it, Calvin. The Saints. Season's over with, but just recently announced Mickey Loomis, the general manager of the New Orleans Saints, had his little press conference. He was asked, is Dennis Allen going to be the head coach in 2023? And he said yes, which we all knew was going to happen. It's quite disappointing, but he got asked about retaining of other coach and staff members. He says he hasn't even thought about looking at, he's got to look at everything, look at all the stats and see where he stands. But if you ask me, Calvin, I don't know how he could look at someone like Pete Carmichael, who is your background today, and think to himself and say, man, I really enjoyed watching this offense play this year. Man, it was so great. It was so good. I mean, y'all know how I feel about Jameis. He didn't look good. Andy Dalton he didn't look good either. Let's just be honest. The whole offense as a whole did not look good this year, and I mean the play calling was really bad. Someone on Twitter, and it made me laugh, and it kind of looked like this, Calvin. It looked like an offense from 1975. That's pretty bad. That is pretty bad. Now, Calvin, I gotta get your opinion on this. One, you already knew that Dennis Allen was going to be retained. We all kind of saw that coming, but what do you make of the comments where he hasn't even looked at evaluating the other coaching staff members? Like, what do you make of this?
So there's really two sides of the way I think. I think with side A, we're gonna call the fanatical side, which is me just purely thinking off of emotion like a fan would, and then there's side B, which is the logical, you really sit down and think about it side. Side A would tell you, what the hell are you doing? Like, fire everybody right now. Like, what's going on? And then side B is like, you know what? I actually kind of like the idea of that because he Mickey has a great relationship with just about everybody in that coaching staff and front office, and they have a lot of respect for each other. And in the professional world, respect goes a long way. And whether or not you like Pete Carmichael or not, um, he has deserved flowers for being here for so long and uh, helping in the way that he did with the team and being part of the Super Bowl and all this. Um, but you live long enough to see your heroes become the villains. That's kind of how this goes. And Pete probably should have left and stayed with his gut last year when he said, "I don't want to be the OC." But it's nice that he's taking the time to decompress because emotion wise, you might do something rash, you might do something that you might come to regret. Now, I don't think we're going to regret getting rid of him, but just out of respect for everybody, you take a week off and you take another week evaluating stuff. I think Mickey already knows that Pete's going to be gone. I think Pete knows that he's going to be gone. He's probably going to be with Cliff Kingsbury in Thailand, sipping on Mai Tais and whatever the hell they're going to be doing over there in Bangkok. If you know, you know. But I like it. Um, if you look at my Twitter, you'll see that I was kind of upset a little bit, but then I was like, it's fine. It's logical. It's good for business. You take the time to look at everything as a whole, and then maybe this might help you make a decision about who's next. And so I'm fine with it. I agree with it.
Well, I mean, if you was just going to go off of emotion, I mean, then I guess everyone would have probably been fired. So I guess I kind of see where Mickey Loomis is coming from, but you just can't sit. Even after sitting back, he just can't be retained. There just can't be a world where Mickey thinks, "Oh, I'm just gonna run it back with this." I liked what they had going at the end. It's like, no, it was horrible. I mean, this didn't even look like the '06 offense, Calvin. I mean, they was trying to run a Sean Payton system without Sean Payton. I mean, Sean's in LA taking interviews at the moment. So, well, I mean, that's a nice segue into the next topic where it's like, okay, so Sean Payton's getting these interviews. He's already lined up with Denver, Arizona, uh, the Texans, oddly enough. And now a fourth team is getting into the mix. The Carolina Panthers was just giving permission to speak to Sean. But here's what I think about the Panthers situation, Calvin, them trying to interview him. I think it's a leverage ploy because there's no way in hell that you're going to trade him to a division rival in your division. That can't happen. Now, you can, but you would probably just scour off with every last single pick the Panthers have for the next 2 years. I mean, we're talking first, second, third, 2 years in a row, and maybe you throw in that 10 million, like the Gruden deal was 1, 2, 1, 2, 8 million. He's not going to the Panthers. I really think it's a leverage ploy to raise the price up a little bit. Now, two teams that I feel are realistic. Texans I think are out. I think they're either going to hire Gannon or maybe even
Ben
Steichen.
Johnson,
I
yeah.
think Ben Johnson is, from what I've heard from Jonathan Jones from CBS Sports, he said Ben Johnson is the front runner for the
Yeah.
Panthers, actually. So I think the Texans are out. I think the Panthers are out. The two teams that you got to see that are in it is the Broncos and the Cardinals. Now, the Broncos are gonna have like a pick almost at pick 30 because they have San Francisco's pick, and they're balling right now. Arizona has that third pick that's very shiny and pretty right now. Do they give it to us? I have my doubts. So my question to you is, where does, in your opinion, of course, where does Coach Payton go, and what do you think we get in return for him? Because I mean, that's all us Saints fans are worried about is what are we going to get for Sean? So, what do you think?
Every day my opinion on that changes because every day there's some new information. The first day I would tell you he's going to the Cardinals, and the next day I'll tell you he's probably gonna go back to the booth. Um, you could see, uh, a dark horse team come out of nowhere. It's possible. Maybe the Raiders fire Josh McDaniels. I mean, who knows what they're gonna do? Because they're talking about Tom Brady. They're gonna aggressively pursue him, and we all hear the rumors about Sean Payton and Tom Brady. So if Tom Brady's over there, then and they fire Josh, I wouldn't be surprised. But Josh McDaniels has his connections to Tom, so that's neither here nor there. But um, the things that you have to keep in mind, Sean Payton is a very, very choosy person. He's not quite so much the gold digger that Kanye West warned you about back in the day, but he is something close to it. He wants stability. He wants a good GM. He wants a good situation. And to me, that means he wants a great quarterback that is young and under contract. So if you look at it, I think Russell Wilson could work with him, but at the same time, that's iffy. I'm sure it'll work out, but he's not getting any younger. Um, Arizona has Kyler Murray, young guy who is a top 10 quarterback. You can even go as far as say sometimes he's top six, top seven, whatever. Um, and the GM stepped down also. So now you have a situation where Sean can go and he can choose his GM as well, and maybe that be Jeff Ireland. Unfortunately for us, but that's stability, and he has his quarterback. But the question after that remains: what is a coach nowadays worth? Are you going to be like Tampa and be okay with getting the trade? Because history will tell you that trading for a coach has done well. Bill Belichick, uh, John Gruden, all these guys won Super Bowls after they got traded. And if you look back at those trades, they were massive underpays, right? So Sean Payton, to me, giving you anything less than really any pick that's over pick like 15 to me is just too low for Sean Payton. I think a top 15 pick and then some other picks, and I don't mind giving you some picks either in return to get more picks is sufficient to me. So I would like to say the Cardinals have right now the best chance. I just think they offer a little bit brighter of a future, maybe than the Broncos. The Broncos' future is a little bleak. It's kind of like the Rams right now. It's a little. But there's also the Chargers, who, depending on what they do with Brandon Staley, because that was an atrocious coaching job we just seen. I feel like he's going to go there or want to go there, but I just don't see their picks being valuable enough, unless we get their picks for the next 3-4 years. So right now, I would have it the Cardinals, the Chargers, and then the Booth, with the Booth looming to be the biggest person to get him, just based off of maybe there's opportunity that he doesn't seem to be interested in or perfect for him. So that's what I got going on for him.
Well, and I think Adam Schefter reported earlier today that he does not think Brandon Staley is going to be fired by the Chargers. And apparently, I think he also reported that they don't have an interest in Sean Payton. Now, if you know the Spanos family that owns the Chargers, they have been known to be kind of cheap historically. And I mean, Saints fans already know what that's about because sometimes Mickey Loomis is cheap, or 9 times out of 10 he is cheap. But so far, the Chargers apparently have no interest in firing Brandon Staley. That's as of right now. But also, Arizona would have to be my top choice. But another thing, ownership does matter, and that Walmart group, along with Condoleezza Rice and the Broncos ownership group, very attractive. I gotta say that the Walmart people are about their money and they want to win.
Shit's owners in the league.
I mean,
By far, actually, by far, by at least 20 bill. So
when they say they got Walmart money, they're not lying. So the thing with that is, I mean, the Cardinals would be my only choice, but if you get the Broncos pick, I mean, you're not gonna get a quarterback right there, but maybe you can get someone like a Bijan Robinson, or you can get someone like an Andre Carter the second in the first round, later first round pick 25, 28, maybe even 30. Then you got pick 41, 10 picks later. You can maybe get Hendon Hooker there still, or I mean, if he's going to just drop drastically to like the third, you can still get him. I mean, there's many possibilities, but I mean, the Arizona Cardinals job is very attractive in my opinion because I mean, he wants to be as close to LA as possible. And I don't know if you've seen that clip that was going around that I think Fletcher Mackel retweeted from Megan Payton's show where Sean was actually on his daughter's show, and Megan asked him, "When are you thinking you're gonna make a decision?" And he said in about 2 or 3 weeks. So this is gonna linger. So it might not be until after the Super Bowl you might hear something, which is crazy enough. But since you brought up quarterback, and quarterback is a problem for the Saints. Everyone knows quarterback is on Mickey Loomis's to-do list, and that should be number 2 underneath fire Pete Carmichael, written in big red ink on the dry erase board. So Calvin, I mean, we've already listed some targets that we liked in a previous episode, but I want to hear some under the radar names that you may have that we should be paying attention to, like maybe 1 or 2 names that you just have off the top.
Uh, Lindsey Scott needs to be
That's a good one.
somewhere on that dry erase board that you're talking about, right? He needs to be on there. Um, and now I've told this to my roommate. He knows about it whenever he'll listen to it. Shout out to him. Shout out to John. Um, I'm kind of at that point where I don't want a bridge quarterback, right? I would rather us roll with a young guy either through the draft or here's some names for you. You look at maybe Trey Lance because really see I don't really see him working out with 49ers. I mean, they got Jimmy Garoppolo, who they're probably gonna keep, but then now you have Brock Purdy, who's kind of making Jimmy Garoppolo look a little obsolete. I mean, plug and play system right there in San Francisco, so it really doesn't matter. Um, so you look at Trey Lance, and then there's guys like Zach Wilson, who I know people will say, "Oh, absolutely not, absolutely not." But I think he's still a better shot than going to go get a Jacoby Brissett, getting a Teddy Bridgewater, because to me those guys are Andy Daltons. I don't really want to waste years like the Colts or the Commanders just trying to get these guys who were decent at one point or who will hold it down. Because Jacoby Brissett and Teddy Bridgewater will hold it down, but they're not going to win you games. They won't win you games, and they won't do a lot to lose you games. But we see with Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton will not win you a game. And there have been times where he had opportunities to win the game, and he will not do it. And I'm talking throwing third and long. He's throwing 2 yard routes. I mean, he's not even trying. So I don't want to waste time with getting a bridge quarterback. So I think you take a shot at Lindsey Scott because other than C.J. Stroud, and I mean we could get into this at whatever point. My thoughts on Hendon Hooker, but I think outside of C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young, if you don't have them two guys, you might as well just pack it up because Anthony Richardson is a flyer. Will Levis is a flyer. Everyone else seems to be kind of like a flyer. But Lindsey Scott is going to be there late round, or he might even be undrafted. You go ahead and pick him up. You have nothing to lose at that point. Um, and if you trade for a guy like Trey Lance or Zach Wilson, guys who probably won't be back for their teams, you let these guys compete. And if they work out, they work out. You didn't have to use a draft pick, a first round draft pick on those guys and hopefully it all works out. So Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, and Lindsey Scott would be my picks under the radar guys.
That is actually some really good names. I really like Lindsey Scott Jr. I do. I got to see him play when he was actually at Nichols for that short time. He actually was really good there. He absolutely lit it up at Incarnate Word. Almost was one win away from the championship, just one play away too. But for me, if we actually did get him, say we had someone like a Trey Lance and we brought in someone like a Lindsey Scott Jr., maybe to be the heir to maybe Taysom, because I really, not like for tight end, but maybe you use him in like the Denard Robinson role that the Jags tried to all those years ago. You could put him at quarterback. You could let him run the ball. You could maybe even put him at wideout. He's athletic. He really is. He's super fast too. He can't block like defensive ends or anything like Taysom can, like playing tight end, but he can maybe play quarterback, running back, and receiver for you, like as that offensive weapon. I mean, he's a weapon on the offense. I mean, like I said, I've seen this guy play with my own eyes. He can get you that 1 or 2 yards that you need that Taysom can get you. Taysom's not getting any younger. He's approaching like I want to say 35 years old pretty soon. You're going to need a guy to be the next Taysom. I mean, maybe Lindsey Scott Jr. could be that guy. I mean, maybe we'll have like someone like a Trey Lance, uh, Derek Carr. I'm laughing because I don't really want Derek Carr, but maybe. Or if you have someone like a Hendon Hooker as your starter and have Lindsey Scott like come and be that Taysom role, I would not be. I would not be upset with that. I really would not be upset with Lindsey Scott coming back home to Louisiana. He's a Zachary native. But before we move on to our next topic, I want to shout out our sponsor, Graphia's Autoglass. If your car ever needs a windshield, back window, or door glass, then save your dough and come see Joe. Don't be an ass. Fix your glass. Come to Graphia's Autoglass. So, with that being said, let's move on to the next topic, Calvin, the New Orleans Pelicans. So, right now, it was just reported by Christian Clark of I want to say the Advocate. Again, Brandon Ingram out versus the Cavaliers on Martin Luther King Day. And that's very disappointing, which means I truly believe that he's probably going to be out up until the All-Star break, which is in February, which this just sucks. It really does because we are trying to tread water right now with no Zion and no BI, and CJ is just trying to do what he can as the lead guy. It's just him and Jonas out there because now Herb's even hurt after taking a nasty fall. And the thing is, I mean, if we make a trade, and I mean, where's this guy going to fit in when Zion and BI returns? I mean, you're hearing rumblings that maybe you go after someone like a Fred Van Fleet, which I completely doubt we get, or even go after like Gary Trent Jr. Maybe I like him. Or I mean, there's another Raptors player that's being rumored too, OG Anunoby. Then you got Bohan Bogdanovic that we just played against the Pistons, who's a knockdown sharpshooter that we can honestly use off the bench. We need more shooting, we really do. I can honestly say that, but Calvin, this team is treading water. How much longer can they tread water right now?
It's going to be tough. Um, Everybody says if you just stay 500 during this time, you're good. But I mean, I don't think going 500 is going to cut it. I think we're still third in the West, but the parity right now is pretty good. I mean, there's not that many games separating third from seven. And I would rather still be at third at the All-Star break than seven. That just makes you look better. Seven's playing game. I'm not one to be in the playing game. Uh, and it's disappointing. Obviously that the big three only played 10 games together, and we're approaching 40, 45 games. Um, I think we'll be okay. The schedule isn't too taxing. It's not as bad as that stretch where Zion got hurt. I mean, that was a terrible stretch of games. We are the deepest team in the league, and whether or not you agree with depth only matters when you have your stars, I don't agree with that. Depth is depth. It just is, right? So either you got people that can play or you don't. Either someone like Najee, Jose, CJ, those guys all step up. That's depth. Um, so, as far as trading water goes, I mean, I think we'll be decent. I think we'll be okay. I think you just have to. I think Willie just has to realize a couple things, and one of those things is you can no longer play Devontae Graham. I've been saying this for months now, but he doesn't offer you anything. He's shooting, I think, like 20% from three, like over these last like 10 games. And the thing with Devontae is if he's not hitting the shots down, there's really no point in keeping him out there. I mean, yeah, he's better defensively than last year, but I mean, that's not really saying a lot. So, I mean, Jose gives you more defensively, and in a weird way, I trust him more offensively than Devontae, which is just wild for me to say because I was really excited about having Devontae on the team, but he's not consistent. This ain't me ragging on the guy. I love Devontae, but if there was a trade to happen, it would probably definitely have to involve him and Jackson. And I don't know if anybody heard, but CJ was on a podcast
That's why I brought it
recently.
up.
He was on a podcast recently, and they were talking about like trades and stuff like that, and they brought up Fred VanVleet and OG and Gary Trent, and he said he couldn't speak on it due to tampering. So clearly he knows, and then he followed that with one of those guys getting moved. People will be getting moved. So I don't see why he would know if any of those guys are gonna get traded to, I don't know, let's say the Kings. Why would he know that? I mean, I believe he's still the president of the Players Association, so maybe he would
He
know.
is.
Yeah,
He
so
is.
so maybe he would know, but also at the same time, I'm not buying that. I'm not really seeing him being too good of friends with FVV and OG and the boys. So I think he knows that David Griffin's up to something with the Pels. But I think we definitely need to make a trade to stay afloat, shooting and rebounding. is what we need, and Bojan will give you that. He will give you shooting, not necessarily rebound. He'll give you shooting. So make a trade. Stop playing Devontae, and I think you'll be all right.
And I mean, let's just for giggles, let's do like a mock trade. So, what would it take to get those three guys like Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby, and Gary Trent in the same trade? I mean, do you trade Devontae, Billy, and Jackson, and maybe a couple of those Minnesota picks? I mean, what do you do? Is that a trade that you think the Raptors would even be willing to listen to?
Well, I think it wouldn't be a trade that the Pels would listen to, number one, because I think Fred VanVleet wouldn't make a good fit here. I mean, we have CJ,
And we have
uh,
Jose too.
we have Jose, uh, Kira. I always mess the man's name. I'm sorry. Um, but I don't really see us needing Fred too much, and Fred's also an undersized guard with below average defense, so I don't really need that. Um, he's not as good of a pure shooter as CJ. I mean, he's a slightly better playmaker, but still, um, Gary Trent gives you the shooting. I don't know how he would feel about coming off the bench because he probably would have to come off the bench. Maybe not. Maybe you just move Bi down and then you move Herb to the bench. Um, which Herb's kind of almost unplayable at this point, and it's kind of sad to see that. He's doing fine defensively as usual, but he's getting more fouls, which the refs are just doing him dirty.
Horrible.
Doing him dirty. They don't know what true defense is. Um, but he's not pulling the open shots, and when he is, he's bricking, and it's disgusting. Um, but that's not the point. We can always get into that at a later date. But I think the one that you should probably the two realistic ones would probably be OG, and because OG's a bucket right now. He's improved tremendously on offense, and he gives you great defense. And Gary Trent is a absolute burner with
Hmm.
shooting. So those two would be the guys if I had to get somebody. Now I'm fine with either one of them. It doesn't matter. I have no preference. But I think for sure you might even, if you want to get both of them, let's just entertain that. Then I think you might give up that Lakers pick this year. The Lakers pick doesn't seem like it's going to be too valuable. The Lakers seem like they're going to be a team that might hover around 500, maybe slightly under 500. Uh, so it's kind of it was fun the first couple months when they were like 1-15, whatever the hell they were. But now it's not fun anymore because now they decide they want to wake up and win games. Um, so maybe you trade that pick. But if you just get one of them, for sure you need to have. Oh, and also Billy has voiced his disdain.
Frustrations.
He's frustrated with his playing time, which I completely understand. Um, but I always say, just get better, dude. I mean, don't complain about it. Just get better. I mean, like, be good on defense and then be good at rebounding, and we'll play you. I mean, it's not that difficult. Um, so I think now you have to probably get something from him. He is a good player. I do like Billy, but he is voicing his frustration, and you can't have that in the locker room. You just can't. So Billy, Jax, or really, if you're gonna put Billy in there, you might not even need to trade Jax. So whatever there. But Billy, Devontae, Jax, and you can probably get away with a second and then a first. Um, I don't think it'll take too much to get these guys, honestly, either one of them, because we do have a lot of assets. So if you give two players and a pick, I think that will get the job done. Maybe add a little second just to sprinkle on top, but I think it'll be pretty simple, pretty easy to get these guys. Just make sure the contracts match up and all that, and then we should be Gucci.
I think Billy would welcome a trade to Toronto because that's where I think his brother Honcho plays. So I think he would be very happy about going to play with his brother up there in Toronto. I mean, I would love. You're right about Fred VanVleet. I mean, this ain't like the FEV that was, killing it when Kawhi was there, or even just a couple years ago. So Gary Trent, I've always been a fan of this guy. He just, I've seen him knock down like consecutive threes in a row, and I'm just like, man, I'd love to get this guy. I liked it when he was in Portland. If I'm not mistaken, yeah, he was in Portland, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, OG Anunoby, he's been a 3-point marksman for years. And to be honest with you, if you want to do like say a 3-team trade, You get Devontae with like a second going to the Pistons for Bogdanovich. You get wow, I just lost my train of thought. You get Jackson and Billy maybe in a couple of seconds, and you send those to Toronto for OG and Gary Trent. Now that's probably not going to happen, but a man can dream. Now that would be a three-team trade that I think everybody could be excited about. Then that means the bench would be incredibly better, but you would lack rebounding. I mean, Larry Nance is good, but he's not a true five. I mean, when Jonas comes off the court, you're losing a rebounder. I think we could use another center, but that's just me. I mean, you got Dwight Howard, who's still available. That's I'm not crazy. Dwight Howard still can rebound. He's over there doing it, I think, in Thailand, if I'm not mistaken, where Cliff Kingsbury is at. But moving on, we got to go to our last couple of topics. We got to move through these rather quickly. So LSU football, Calvin, they're looking really good in the transfer portal, and I cannot believe I did not say this name last week on my favorite transfer. I know I said Zy Alexander, but I want to add another one out there. Aaron Anderson, guy coming, a New Orleanian coming home. I mean, he was at Bama, receiver, such a great athlete. I mean, if you want to score, put the ball in that man's hands. He could literally be used in a Sproles role. You can put him at running back. He's a receiver first and foremost, but receiver, running back, kick returner, punt returner. He could probably do it all. I mean, I'm very excited about that. But the true topic I want to get into is LSU basketball. LSU basketball falling to Alabama basketball by 40 points. Now, quickly, Calvin, I mean, do you think LSU is going to go far at all this year, or do you think next year might be the year that we see what a McMahon team looks like?
It's year one for a new coach. I'm never going to put too much stock in a year one coach. I always like to be optimistic about year one coaches, but truth of the matter is they need time to get their guys in completely. Now, I mean, obviously football and basketball is different. It's a lot easier in basketball to get your guys because less guys on the team. But still, we need a whole cycle, a whole year, maybe a year and a half of recruiting and transfer portal and all that to really see what this team gets built around. I mean, but shout out to Nate Oates though. I mean, Nate Oates is a fantastic. I remember like 2 years ago or a year ago on the podcast, we were talking about him as a candidate for the
Hey,
Pelicans.
oh yeah, I love
And
Nate
then,
Oates.
and then also a candidate for LSU whenever Willie Green got hired. So he is proven, to still be up there. And maybe you might see him get an NBA job. I don't know. Maybe the Hawks job opens up for him because I mean, Jesus, the Hawks fans and Hawks players seem to not be messing with Nate McMillan at the moment. It's understandable. Maybe even Steven Silas gets the axe, which I would really hate. I really like the guy, but I mean, their ISO offense is just kind of weird. Um, so maybe he goes there, but give them a year. They're doing pretty good right now. But shout out to Angel Reese and the women's basketball side of LSU. Man,
Absolutely.
I mean, phew, she's doing thing, and I can never get her last name right, but Coach Kim, La Tech product, her name's hanging in our banner in the Thomas Assembly Center. Um, yeah, she's doing it. She's doing the thing over
Doing
there.
her thing.
They
I mean,
look
LSU women's basketball. Not to cut you off, but LSU women's basketball is doing incredible. They have not lost a game. Angel Reese is putting up video game numbers every single game, and it's truly incredible.
28 rebounds in the game. I mean,
That's video game numbers,
like
Calvin.
calm down, Wilt Chamberlain. Like we get it. We
If she
get it.
doesn't, if she doesn't win at least Player of the Year in women's basketball for college, I mean, then something's wrong. But moving on to our last topic for LSU, baseball. Quickly, Calvin, do you think right now? I think LSU's ranked first in the preseason polls. You think LSU goes to the College World Series this year?
I think so. I think it's possible. Tech's better. Tech's gonna beat him again. So I mean, it is what it is.
I gotta disagree. I mean, Tommy thinks that it just got out the portal. Tommy, they call him Tommy Tanks for a reason. He hits the ball so hard it looks like it's a tank out of the park. Wow, I just sounded lame saying that. Okay, So, moving on to our last topic and final topic of the podcast, some NASCAR, Calvin. Shocking. I know people are like, wow, NASCAR. Yeah, NASCAR. So, Kevin Harvick announced on just a few days ago that he's going to be retiring at the end of the 2023 season. Calvin, he's been racing for a long time. What's the first thing about Kevin Harvick that, after all these years watching him race, what's the first thing or first car that you think of when you hear Kevin Harvick?
Bro, first of all, shout out to him. The dude's like always been tenacious as a racer. I mean, I remember playing, I remember playing NASCAR '08, right, with Tony Stewart on the cover, um, and playing with what's his name, Jason Allmendinger, I think's his name, Tony Stewart, Jesus Christ, Jeff Gordon, all those guys. Um, Jesus, man, it's really sad to me because all those guys, man, like
They're
it's
gone.
yeah, it's gone. You know, Dale Earnhardt, all the classic cars back in the day, like Casey Kane, the #9, #18 car, the Interstate Battery car, the DuPont car for DuPont, whatever it is for Jeff Gordon, Lowe's. Like, bro, it's sad, but you know, I remember him in the Mobil One car, #4. He's been four for a while though. Like he was before for Bush Life for a little bit. He might still be four. I haven't really touched upon it recently.
He still is for. He's
Yeah.
racing for
So
Stuart
shout
Haas right now.
so shout out. He's still four. Um, dang man, the childhood days over, man. Like, uh, it's just sad to see that all these guys are finally getting out here. And I mean, you know, we still have Denny Hamlin and Joey Logano and guys like that. And you know, I enjoy watching those guys whenever I get the chance. Um, but man, another good one. Another good one is gone. It's just sad, man. That's
It sucks getting old, Calvin. It does. I mean, for me, I all those years of him racing for our RCR, Richard Childress, that good wrench #29 car right after Dale passed away a few years before. When he was racing in a #29 car, that's prime Kevin Harvick. I mean, you talk about like prime Drew Brees, a prime Michael Jordan. I mean, prime Kevin Harvick was at 29 car for all those years, and I remember watching I think Daytona 500. I think in want to say 2007 where he won it just by like an inch because I mean him and Mark Martin were battling and he won it like I said, just by like an inch. You hear fourth and inches. I mean, it was literally like probably like a minute bit that he won by. If you don't believe me, go on YouTube and just search Kevin Harvick, Mark Martin, Daytona 500. It was such an incredible race, but that's not the only news in NASCAR. You got Jimmie Johnson joining the Richard Petty team part time. Where Jimmie Johnson's coming out of retirement part time now. But now, since he's joined the team, he's going to be racing in the number 84 car, which is a reverse of that 48 car that he drove for all those years. And now Richard Petty is going to be changing the name from Richard Petty Racing to Legacy Motorsports. And I think, if I'm paraphrasing here, Jimmie Johnson and Richard Petty, legendary racers. I mean, both 7-time Cup champs. He said, why you got to change the name of Legacy. I'm paraphrasing here, but I mean, Jimmie Johnson joining Richard Petty. He's going to be racing alongside Ty Dillon in the 42, and then you got Eric Jones in the 43. Now you got Jimmie Johnson. I mean, what do you make of Jimmie Johnson coming out of retirement, Calvin?
hey, just like what I just said. You know, it was sad seeing all the guys leave. So it's fun seeing you know Jimmie Johnson come out, even if it's just part time. Still lets us older guys. I'm not really that old, but like you know, I'm 23 now, but still, uh, you know, it still gives the guys who are in the NASCAR and what I like to call the glory years for the 2000s, like between like '06 and '08, '06 to 2010. Uh, some hope. Let's us cling on to the old days a little bit. Um, I've been a fan of Jimmie Johnson. I was more so of Jeff Gordon. Uh, it was a little frustrating to see Jimmy kind of do him in later in Jeff's career, but you know it is what it is. Um, But it's good. It's good for racing, especially the name Legacy Motorsports. I mean, that's about as good of a name you can get for those two guys. Um, who knows? Maybe one day my boy Bubba will be there. Who knows? Um, I mean, he's fine. He's fine with the Jordan crew. I like that for the culture. Uh, yeah, man, it's nice. It's nice seeing him come out, man.
And lastly, but not least, we got the Clash at the Coliseum. I think it's very. That's coming up February 5th. You got it. I think it's at 5 p.m. Pacific time. I don't know what that is in Louisiana time, but someone in the comments will probably correct me on that. So it's coming up rather fast, and it is quite interesting that they have this event at the LA Coliseum of all places. I mean, you wouldn't think a racetrack fits in there, but they squeeze it in there. So, quickly, Calvin, what is your thoughts on the Clash at the Coliseum as a whole?
Um, I hope it's a better event than getting college football in California because that was disastrous. Um, the Coliseum is a legendary place, man. It usually holds legendary events. Hopefully, this will be another addition to the legendary events. I think it would be pretty awesome to watch. Um, hopefully, I get to see Alvin Kamara there. I think he's still got his little NASCAR partnership. Hopefully, he doesn't lose that with his impending. Uh, we ain't gonna talk about it, but with his impending things going on. Uh, so hopefully he's there. Hopefully it's a great time. Hopefully California laws and California whatever just don't suck this dry like they did the college championship. That was
Yeah, that
whatever.
was rather boring.
Just whatever.
So, I mean, and then I think NASCAR just announced that Wiz Khalifa will be one of the performers at the Clash at the Coliseum, February 5th, 5 p.m. Pacific. I don't know what time that is in Louisiana. And
And
again,
that's
y'all will
two
have to help.
hours behind, man. That's 2 hours behind.
Okay, so I guess that's 5. No, no, that's 3 o'clock here. My mistake, you guys. I was taught Louisiana time here in Louisiana.
I think that's 7 here if it starts at 5, yeah, that's 7 over here.
Okay, that's 7 o'clock here. I was backwards. I'm sorry. I'm dyslexic. Anyway, so we're at the wrap up portion, Calvin. And was there anything that we went over that we did not discuss, or do you have any comments or concerns that we did not go over that you would like to get off
Um
your chest?
if we were to trade for either OG, Boyan or Trent, I'm tell you right now, it's going to be for either one of them. We're not going to get a combination of two of them. We're not going to get all three. It's going to be for one because really all you need is one. Uh, they are going to give you shooting, which is the thing that we need, and either way, I'm fine with it. Three-team trade will be interesting, but I think the three-team trade will need to be a little bit tweaked because the Pistons seem that they're getting hoed a little bit in your slight prediction there. Um, and I don't know if the Raptors are taking uh, just like Billy and Jackson. I mean, I don't know what team would. Uh, that just depends on what the Raptors want to do. If they're going to decide to like tank, which they're not winning anything anytime soon, so why not, right? Or rebuild whatever they want to do. They need to figure that out. They're kind of in this weird limbo, I guess. I mean, they're a good team, but you know, um, shit, we're only gonna get one of them if we do get any of them. Um, and I'm still gonna fight for Michael Thomas in any way that I can. I will argue with anybody, anywhere, anytime about Michael Thomas. I have done it for the past 2, 3 seasons, and I will do it for another one.
Well, I'm glad you got that off your chest. And I think it's sad to say I think Michael Thomas's time in New Orleans will be officially over rather soon, which is, like I said, sad to say. But it is what it is. It's the nature of the business. But with that being said, we are out of time, ladies and gentlemen. I
Wait,
want to.
hold on, wait. We got 200 views. Appreciate y'all for that. We need that same energy for the whole rest of the season. I don't want to see no 20 views towards the end. Nah, I don't want to see none of that. Let's keep it up. Y'all watch the first one. There ain't no excuse why y'all can't watch the rest of them. Y'all gonna be good. Some gonna be better than others. But just come on, support. Just keep on watching. But thank you
So,
though.
thank you for the views. That's definitely a milestone for this podcast. That's a first and hopefully not the last. But like you said, continue watching, continue the support. And with that being said, this has been another great edition of The Hit. I am Logan Graffia. He is Calvin Rons. We shall see you guys next time. Ta ta.